Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chef Alli here on behalf of Kansas Living. In the spring edition of the Kansas Living magazine, you are going to find 3 new spring recipes, and one of those recipes is a baked gratin that has ham, a very creamy white sauce, and then also something that's kind of fun to cook with. These are called gnocchi, which is nothing more than a potato dumpling. You're going to find them on the shelf next to the pasta. They are shelf stable, and when you pull the package out of that box, it's going to be packed like this, and these little potato dumplings look like that. So you're going to cook them pretty much the same way you would cook pasta, actually just for a few minutes. And I'm going to show you some tricks for making a lump-free white sauce, aka gravy, every single time. Okay, and I get a lot of people telling me, my gravy always has lumps in it. Well, we're going to put a stop to that right now. So right here in my skillet, over medium heat, okay, I have already melted a 1/4 cup of butter. And we're going to add to that a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Typically when you make a white sauce, you're going to use equal parts fat. And by the way, you don't have to use butter in this. If you'd rather use olive oil, vegetable oil, sometimes people even use margarine, you can totally do that. It's always equal parts fat and flour, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and add this 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour to what I have going on in my pan. Then I'm going to use my flat whisk, which is an essential tool for making white sauce and gravy. This is a balloon whisk for using in a mixing bowl. This is a nice flat whisk, which is great for a skillet because you can get clear up into the very edge of your skillet or your pan, okay? So what we're going to do, and I will kind of try and show you this, we're going to combine the flour and the butter, and this would also be known as your roux, okay? And see how nice and smooth that is at this point? Again, that's equal parts flour and your fat, whichever you're using, and we're using an unsalted butter. So we're going to put this back on the burner at medium heat because what we want to do at this point is we want to cook it for a minute or so because that's going to keep our gravy, our white sauce, from tasting pasty. If we don't cook that flour for a minute or so it can actually brown in that butter, it will taste pasty, which is never fun for your guests. So we're just going to cook that, let it simmer a little bit. It's getting all bubbly and nice. And then this is the key thing that you need to know for making lump-free gravy every single time, okay? And it is this. You are going to pull this skillet off the heat at this point, okay? And what we'll do is we'll put it right over here so you can see it better. I'm going to move it here. We'll move our gnocchi over. And this is my milk with which we're going to make our white sauce for the gratin that's in the Kansas Living Spring 2020 issue. I'm so excited for you guys to make this recipe. This is kind of a fun recipe that's just a little bit different that you might want to serve for Easter, maybe a Mother's Day brunch. Super easy. You mix it all up, bake it in the oven, and it uses something real common, just a ham steak. Or you could use leftover ham from what you serve. If you serve that at Easter dinner and you want to make this gratin later, you could totally do that. So we have pulled our roux off of the heat. And this is, again, that trick that you need to know whenever you're making gravy. We're going to add our milk, our liquid, which this could be anything. It wouldn't have to be milk. You could use broth. You could use a little bit of wine, depending on what kind of a gravy or a sauce you're making. But we want to incorporate this little by little. But see how nice and smooth. I wish my cameraman was here to show you. But see how nice and smooth that is? If we had kept that on that burner, you can't keep up with the heat, the roux, and the milk all at the same time. That's what kind of causes things to get lumpy, all right? And we hate lumpy when it's talking about that, or when we're talking about gravy, right? So as you can see, this is starting to get thick. So we're going to continue, all right, to add our liquid a little bit at a time, still keeping this gravy, this white sauce, off of that heat, okay? So we're going to continue to add this liquid a little bit at a time, only incorporating what we need until that whisks out nice and smooth, okay? We have about a cup more. I don't think I said it, but this is 2 cups, whoops, of milk. And this gravy in here is perfectly smooth now. I love that. And this part, the last part, you're going to be able to add pretty quickly. It's just that initial stage where you want to add the liquid a little bit at a time until it incorporates with the roux. So now we're going to go back to our burner. And this is when we're just going to whisk it. We're going to let our white sauce, our gravy, get nice and thick at this point. And it's also when you can do your seasoning. I like to use kosher salt because I can get a pinch of that and sprinkle in what I need as I go. I kind of taste as I go. You can do it however you wish. And then sometimes when people are making a white sauce, probably not so much when you're making a country gravy, but for sure when you're making a white sauce, sometimes we don't want to put black pepper in a pretty white sauce. So that's when your white pepper is going to come into play. Not an expensive spice. We're just going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of this white pepper to our white sauce to give it a little bit of seasoning along with our kosher salt. So I hope that helps you make a nice smooth white sauce, but remember the secret technique, the secret hack is taking that roux completely off the heat source before you add any liquid. So check out the new spring issue of Kansas Living Magazine. I will plan to see you soon. Let's get you cooking.